Welcome from Cross Border Talks. Malgorzata Kulbaczewska and Vladimir Mitev, connecting
Welcome.
from Katowice and Ruse in Bulgaria. We are starting something which is meant to be presidential elections coverage. We'll be reflecting in the next minutes and possibly more hours on the Polish presidential elections, which are still running. We are a few minutes away from the announcement exit polls, and we'll be having hopefully some guests also to discuss and reflect on a number of Polish issues, Poland-related issues, like including its connections to Southeastern Europe. Malgorzata, how do you feel in this moment in your country and on this live streaming?
Yeah, hello everybody from this truly cross-border electoral evening. And really, when I went voting today, it looked almost like a normal summer day. It was very hot today in Katowice, and people seemed just to enjoy free time. But if you went online today in the Polish-speaking segment of the internet, you felt there is a tension and there is an expectation that it is a historical moment, and Poland in which we will all wake up tomorrow will be different than this Poland in which we went to sleep yesterday. So it is, in fact, I don't want to use such big words. It's a civilizational choice is perhaps too big, but yes, still it is a choice that may determine the trajectory of our country for the next few years, and not only our position in Europe, also the number of internal policy questions. So yeah, I am excited. I am nervous, also because this is the first time that Cross Border Talks goes live. And there is only 7 minutes left to cast a vote in Poland. The voting stations are already closed in a number of countries abroad when Polish people are a visible diaspora. And by the way, one thing is very important, we had a record turnout. As we will most probably have a record turnout in these elections. The turnout measurement, the results given by the National Electoral Commission 3 hours ago showed that 54% of people showed up at the polling stations, which is really an impressive result. And after, we can expect that even more people will come to vote last minute. So I think that not only I am excited this evening in Poland, a lot of people are expecting something important to happen.
Yes, I guess not only in Poland, but through the region. I need to remind our viewers that Polish elections intertwined with the Romanian presidential elections, and there were many confluences between them, like support between the liberal sector of one country and the other, or the sovereignist sector in one country and the other. So we'll be hopefully joined a little bit later by a Romanian foreign policy expert, Gabriel Done, who will help us know a little bit more about how the Polish elections outcome influences Romania's politics or even regional politics in Southeastern Europe. And for now, just a few minutes away from the announcement of the first exit polls, I consider that maybe it's a good idea that we plug in for some time, for a few minutes maybe, to the emission of the TVP, the English language Polish channel, which is, as far as I know, very popular in Poland. And it will give us the opportunity maybe to follow what's going on for some time and even comment on it while taking place. So just a moment for me to set up the right window of screening, and we continue. Okay, so we are now plugged into the ongoing live stream of TVP. And just a moment for me to activate the sound too.
So for the moment, we can see all the previous presidents of Poland after the fall of the real socialist system. So Lech Wałęsa, Aleksander Kwaśniewski of the post-communist Social Democratic Left Alliance, then Lech Kaczyński, one of the founders of Law and Justice Party. The next one, Bronisław Komorowski, representing Civic Platform, the Donald Tusk's party, and the still incumbent president Andrzej Duda was in the last photo. He is leaving the office now. He could not stand for yet another term. What he will do now is still uncertain, but the big question is whether the next president will continue Duda's line and will be the voice of the sovereignist in the presidential palace while the pro-European option is in power, forms the government, or will the pro-European and liberal option gain full power in the country, having their prime minister, their majority in the parliament, and also their men in the presidential palace? Of course, there are some of the analysts think that this full all power to the liberals could not last for long, and that we will have a cohabitation then after next parliamentary elections. But for now, the stakes are such. Will we have a cohabitation again? Will we continue with two different political forces, two sides of our polarization having the representative in the power? Or could Donald Tusk be the absolute master of the situation?
The role also holds a legislative hand, and while the president does not tend to formulate policy, they have the influence to sign bills into law or veto them. A decision that can only be overridden by a 3/5 majority vote in the Polish parliament.
Why it's important to have the president, because the president can block laws.
Yes, basically, this is the very important thing that you have just heard from the commentator of the TVP. The president in Poland holds mainly a ceremonial role, but he can block the laws. Although it is possible for the parliament to overturn the presidential veto, for the current in the current balance of forces in Polish parliament, it won't be easy. Therefore, if the sovereignist president enters the presidential palace after these elections, it will be very difficult for Donald Tusk's government to go on with reforms they promised to the voters. And if Rafał Trzaskowski is there, then we can imagine that the liberals will really do what they intend to do.
Okay,
the president of Poland is also the head of the armed forces, and he has capacities concerning foreign policy. Yes, just
so
60
the
seconds
EU
left.
summits. Who usually goes to the EU summits in Poland? Is it the prime minister or is it the president?
They both all want to go, actually.
And when they're from different parties, how do they arrange the situation?
Well, when they were from different parties, it is always very difficult. Let's put it diplomatically. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Poles vote in tight presidential race. It's a very good sum up by TVP.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back in the studio. This is it. We are finally approaching the moment we've all been waiting for. Months of presidential campaigns, many controversies that we've encountered on the way, and we're finally on the cusp of finding out who's going to be the next president of Poland. It's finally happening. The clock has struck 9, and we have the results of the exit poll of the runoff of the Polish presidential election. Aaron Daman is with me now and has the first official predictions. So, Aaron?
And then there was one. Yes, that's right. We can now reveal the first exit poll of the final runoff in Poland's presidential race. And according to these estimations, 50.3% Rafał Trzaskowski, Karol Nawrocki 49.7%. It is too close to call. We cannot make a projection tonight between centrist Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski and right-wing historian Karol Nawrocki. That means a waiting game. Will it be the pro-EU, pro-NATO government-backed Trzaskowski, who has led most major polls of the campaign? Or can the Eurosceptic Navroski, who's been imitating Donald Trump's rallying against the old world order, come out on top? We can also share how many polls voted today. According to Ipsos, 72.8% ballot box. That's a record for a Polish presidential election. That's also more than 21 million people of the roughly 29 million eligible voters in Poland and abroad. Remember, Claudia, these are not the final numbers. They are our projections. So watch this space as the night unfolds.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Definitely, this is going to be a very interesting night and a day to follow. As we just learned, the result is too close to call. Now it is time for us to move to our correspondents, Kazimierz Łysiak at the Civic Coalition's HQs and Sonia Gata-Biszczan with the Law and Justice Party. Again, good evening to you both. Kazimierz, let's start with you. So what is the mood like, and were people surprised with this result that we've seen so far?
Okay, I guess that was a good start of the evening. We know some projections, some hypotheses, some exit polls, and there is a very small distance, as far as I see, between the two candidates. How many votes are this 0.6% between the two?
Well, I would say we still don't know anything. This is such a little difference that really everything can be still overturned during the night. The votes will need, and I think we will be sitting here for a longer time watching how the vote count progresses, because this is a really minimum difference between the candidates. I can't tell you immediately into how many people how many votes it corresponds, but this is really low. This is even a lower, smaller difference between the candidates than any of the polls before the vote expected. Like most in the polls before the vote, it was expected that Trzaskowski would come first with 1-2 percentage point ahead of Navroski, and now we see really a tiny difference.
Okay, but we see here Trzaskowski being lauded. Could we imagine that the mobilization which took place in Warsaw had a very high turnout, or in another big city, is it likely that it is pro-Trzaskowski? In fact, who votes for Trzaskowski in these elections?
Yeah, indeed, there was a higher mobilization than in the previous round in not only Warsaw, but also other big cities in the west of Poland, like Poznań, like also Szczecin, the cities that are known for their support for Donald Tusk's civic platform and for whom Trzaskowski is the favorite candidate. So yes, we can. I think that a mechanism similar to that what happened in Romania also took place in Poland. Vladimir, you are very familiar with the situation in Romania, and so you remember perfectly how the liberal, urban, educated voters of Nicu Jordan mobilized to support their candidate in the second round, and actually they allowed him to secure a victory. I think that, yes, a similar story happened in Poland. Like, there was a mobilization of the educated, of the people from the bigger cities, and people from the western part of Poland. So I see that now Trzaskowski started speaking, so we may hear what he's saying, or he's still watching the screen.
I know how much it cost you. I would like to thank my brother, my father-in-law, my whole family. Without them, I wouldn't make it. Thank you very much.
It looks like he declares he's the winner.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to thank all of my friends. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am. I would like to thank my whole team, Viola Paprocka, who was heading it.
So there you go. There are screams of happiness and of victory here. The members of the party of Rafał Trzaskowski, his supporters, are shouting here, "We have won. This is a victory." So they are definitely happy about the results, even though, let me remind you that this result still could change, as this is only an exit poll. And, well, I've spoken.
Do you think we can safely say some basic things about the difference between the two? What was one standing for? What was the other standing for? What the win of one would mean for Poland, and what the win of the other would mean?
Yes, I will tell this in a moment. Just one remark. In an alternative exit poll presented by OGB company, because these exit polls that we have seen on the screen come from Ipsos, which is one of the most renowned sociological companies in Poland. But in an alternative exit poll led by an OGB company, also we have Rafał Trzaskowski victory, but with even smaller margin. Like according to their estimations, there is 50.17% for the Civic Platform candidate and 49.83% for Karol Nawrocki. So we really see this is a race where really like not even hundreds of thousands, but 10,000s of votes have decided on the outcome. And I am wondering...
And do we know whether these are results for Poland only or also for the diaspora?
No, these are the results for Poland only.
Okay, so diaspora could change the vote, if I understand correctly, if it votes predominantly or the other.
Yes, but our diaspora is it's not like it's very divided, just like the others. And while, for example, I expect more votes for Navroski from the American diaspora, then those Poles in Western Europe will probably vote for Trzaskowski. This is my guess, but this is a tendency that we had seen in previous elections. So again, we are divided at home, we are divided also abroad. A polarization is, as you see, very tough. And even though alternative options emerged in the first round, then the difference was really small. And now there is, I see, Navroski speaking to his followers.
Yes, just a moment for me to put his...
Save them. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we will win. Tonight we will win.
Okay.
We will win, and we will save Poland. We will not let the authority of Donald Tusk come to a complete monopoly. We will not let an evil power take over public finances and take away our dreams and aspirations. This monopoly will not come to being. So tonight we have to win, and we know this will happen. These are peculiar elections, the only ones after 1989, and that's why I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. To all the citizens of Poland, I want to say that we managed to do two things at least in the whole campaign for the last 6 months. First of all, we did not let them break us. They took away our money. They used the state institutions against us. They lied. They lied. They lied. And you were with me the whole time. We were together for 6 months of this strong fight for Poland. Huge appreciation for all of you. For all of you who put up banners, who paid funds into our account. Those of you who I met on the way, in the meetings across Poland. You are wonderful, and we are a strong, proud nation that loves our freedom, that will be never taken away from us. You are the best evidence of that. Thank you for being with me.
Okay, these are standard phrases, if I may say, if I'm not mistaken. Every time sovereignists appeal to proud Poland,
Yeah.
And so
proud
those were our
Romania, proud
reporters Kazimierz
Bulgaria,
Łysiak
etc.
with the Civic Coalition
Before
and Sonia
continuing,
Agata-Biszczan with
there is a
Law and
question by a
Justice.
listener and
So
reader, a listener in our YouTube channel, who asks, how long can we expect counting to take? Could you comment for him when we will have
Yes.
the results?
Yes. So the National Electoral Commission promised the final results to be delivered tomorrow in the morning. So tomorrow before 12 o'clock, we will know for sure who is the next president of Poland.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like, if I may add something Balkan here, if I may call it
Sure.
this way, everyone declares himself a winner. I mean, this is so standard for Bulgarian elections too. Even the people or the parties at the third or the fourth place, they always emphasize that they have won, they have been on the winning side, etc. So it looks like just a wild guess, but maybe it's not good to be loser in Poland. Everyone wants to be winner, and everyone has to be winner, even if I may say. Do I correctly put it in your view?
Yes, in Poland, you always want to be on the winning side. You usually don't admit that you have done something wrong and that you lost. But I hear in law and justice candidates, well, theoretically a citizens candidate, but endorsed by law and justice, and everybody knows that. So I see in this short speech of the sovereignist candidate also something more. So I expect if it turns out that the sovereignist side actually lost these elections, we can expect them trying to undermine the credibility of the vote and also the legitimacy of the president. There have been a lot of claims in this segment of Polish-speaking internet suggesting that the civic platform actually organized voters sympathizing with Trzaskowski to go from one polling station to another. And even the law and justice even suggested to the people sympathizing with their party who were the members of local electoral commissions to verify people's certificate, allowing them to vote outside of the place where they are permanently residing, to check the numbers of this certificate with an app that was prepared by a private company and which supposedly could allow to see if this certificate had not been used previously in another voting station. So there was a couple of incidents where a member of a commission actually tried to they actually allowed the person to vote, but they wanted to verify the certificate using this privately prepared application, which has nothing to do with official electoral institutions. So there was Law and Justice clearly tried to create an atmosphere that these elections may be stolen from them, that these elections may not be organized in a proper manner. And now the question is, what will they do if the result we saw in exit polls will turn out to be the definite result?
Okay, but I guess there are observers who are also independent,
Yep.
international, etc. There are official, maybe organizations which professionally deal with observation of results. What do we have any information? What do they say, or what
Well,
would they?
there were no reports during the day about any serious incidents. In fact, this election day was very calm, even compared to different election days. Very minimal number of incidents like breaking the electoral silence or illegal agitation or any strange incidents in the polling stations. It turned out that most of the voters, first of all, most of the society really showed an interest in these elections. People really were motivated to vote this time, and those who came to vote behaved in a way they should behave. So really, I don't see a reason to believe that these elections were forged in any way.
Okay, so if I may return to my very big question, but maybe some comment on it would be useful. what happens generally? What are the contentious issues, and what happens on these issues if Trzaskowski win? What happens if Navroski wins?
Well, very big questions indeed, but let's try to point out the most important points. First, if Trzaskowski becomes the president, then Donald Tusk and his government have an open way to do the reforms they announced. And they have, in fact, all the tools in their hands to do what they plan to do. If they want to do more legislative changes in favor of the business, the way is open. Also, if they want to, for example, we had the last month, for example, Andrzej Duda vetoed a law that changed the system of, they changed the system of counting the healthcare fee for a business. And this was one of the most important pro-business changes announced in the parliamentary electoral campaign by Donald Tusk, but it was actually vetoed by Andrzej Duda. So we can expect that such changes supporting the business, both small and big business, could return if a president in the presidential palace will no longer be vetoing them. If Rafał Trzaskowski in the presidential palace is a guarantee of a pro-European course of the country, also in foreign policy. This here, no doubts about that. And when it comes to Navroski, the leaders of the Law and Justice Party, which endorsed him in these elections, spoke quite openly that his return, another term by a pro-law and justice president would be the first step to restore the sovereignist grip over Poland. So it would be the first step for them to return to power. And if they return to power, they announced, now they will close the system they started to build during their 2 terms in power when they had a parliamentary majority. So
Okay,
it was expected. Yeah.
We have a pro-business president. The same accusation is directed or hurled at Nicușor Dan, the winner of the Romanian presidential elections, who is also the mayor of Bucharest, like Trzaskowski is the mayor of Warsaw. Will be, I hope, shortly joined by Gabriel Done to discuss a number of these mixtures and common confluences, as they say in Romanian, between Poland and Romania. So how
just one thing here, perhaps I focused a little bit too much on the pro-business things. It's also because we all did, over the last few weeks, we discussed this issue with the healthcare fee for the small business, and it was really the question number 1 at some moment. And there were also lowering taxes became a very important issue in this presidential campaign, with far-right candidates doing very well in the first round, and all of them trying to get the declarations from Trzaskowski as well that he will cut taxes even further, although the taxes in Poland are really not that high compared to Western European countries. But perhaps I also need to say at this moment that Rafał Trzaskowski, the presidential palace, also means that Donald Tusk will no longer have an excuse why there is no progress on women's rights, LGBT rights, and other progressive issues that he claimed to be a champion when leading during the campaign before the parliamentary elections. When women asked him where are our reproductive rights, Tusk responded that the parliament is not voting on a law concerning abortion because it would be vetoed anyway by Andrzej Duda. With Rafał Trzaskowski in the presidential palace, then the excuse is no longer valid, and we should then ask Donald Tusk where are our rights, where are the liberalizing laws that you promised to us, the female citizens of Poland.
Okay, so progressive vote in cultural terms is obviously for Trzaskowski, but could we say that Navroski has some kind of pro-social agenda or not, having in mind that Law and Justice introduced previously some pro-social policies, but is he the same as them?
Yeah, very good question, and thanks for this. Indeed, Law and Justice had a pro-social agenda of unprecedented scale when being in power, and a lot of people in Poland are still grateful for them, not only for the child benefits, but also for the higher minimum wage, for the new rules of getting insurance with special kinds of labor contracts. Those were very important changes. But Karol Nawrocki did not try to continue this way. He tried to do a favor to the new far-right tendency that is incarnated by people like Sławomir Mencen or the Konfederacja Party, who go into a different type of right-wing policies, who basically advocate free market without barriers and low taxes and maximum personal initiative, whatever to understand it. So in Navroski's program, there were no more talk about new social benefits or additional social benefits to what is already here. There was rather a talk of lowering taxes, putting no more taxes on Polish families, and also even banning some kind of taxes and introducing this ban into the constitution of Poland. So no, he didn't try to be the social candidate this time. He wanted to win the votes of this new far right. What is also important is that Navroski came with a criticism of one of the most important projects of Law and Justice, the so-called Polish Order or Polski Ład, which was a massive tax reform introduced by Mateusz Morawiecki, the prime minister under Law and Justice rule. So Karol Nawrocki suggested in this campaign that the Polish Order, this reform was actually a mistake and it hit the small and medium business, which basically means that they are no longer fighting for the vote of those who, let's say, didn't win much from the transition, from the post-socialist transition. I think that they feel firm enough in these circles and they thought they could fight for the business vote. Well, first, to some extent, they are right. As there was a map of the geographical division of the vote at some moment on our screen, and we could see that these regions of the country that are generally poorer on average, so the whole of eastern Poland and part of the southern Poland, they are still firmly on the sovereignist side. So we see that despite this turn towards free market and pro-business thinking, still the favorized regions of Poland stand with the sovereignists, and this will remain for some time, even though Navroski was no mean a social thinking candidate.
Okay, it's very interesting that we took the turn towards economic issues and discussion of economic reasons or motivation for vote. I just want to make now a small open certain brackets in which I would include Gabriel Done, Romanian foreign policy expert, and I hope you have a good discussion also with him. Gabriel, hello, do you hear us?
Hello, good evening. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so we were discussing that there are so many common things between Romania and Poland right now. Surprisingly, even we have the mayor of Poland, of Warsaw, as leading candidate after these elections at the exit polls. We have the mayor of Bucharest winning the elections in Romania. Both of them seem to be supported by the business. Both of them, their camps were supporting one another. And again, this division, cosmopolitans or citizens of big cities against citizens of poorer or more educated against less educated, etc. So it's kind of many common things at first sight, at least. What can you tell us about these confluences between Romania and Poland in this historical moment? How do you explain that the two countries seem to be so similar in their social political orientation, or I don't know, preferences or debates? What do you make of this commonness?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for your question. First of all, I think that we should be very very clear. It's too the results of the elections. It's too close to call a president now in Poland, but. I'd like to say that the possible election of Rafał Trzaskowski as president of Poland would significantly a pivotal shift in Central and Eastern Europe politics, and I think that your expert present with us it's can agree this because this this result, the winner of the elections could be Trzaskowski, will have a profound implication not only for Romania or for Bulgaria, but also for the rest of the Central and Eastern Europe, because our bilateral and multilateral relationship between our nations and the broader European project are too close. So, as a stance for the pro-European figure, Trzaskowski's victory would reinforce the liberal democratic values that undermine the European Union values, offering a counterbalance to the rising tide of nationalism in the region, as Nicu Șordan represents for Romania and for the entire region. So for Romania, Trzaskowski's presidency and Trzaskowski's victory would hurt a very important bilateral tie. Why? Because both countries, as you mentioned, as member of the European Union, as member of NATO, share a common interest in regional security and economic development. And Trzaskowski's pro-European stance aligned with Romanian's foreign policy and Romanian president vision about the European integration objectives, potentially facilitating deeper cooperation in areas such as defense, energy, and infrastructure. And we know that during the first term, the first administration, Donald Trump said very clearly that he wants to build a very powerful wall of defense between Helsinki and Thessaloniki in Greece. And with Trzaskowski, I think that Romania, Poland, and Bulgaria will become the first line in the American dream for the European defense. I'd like to underline that the personal report between President Nicu Șordan and probably President-elected Trzaskowski could further solidify the partnership between Romania and Poland, and also the partnership between our nations in the region. Dan's support for Trzaskowski during the campaigns underscores a shared vision for more integrated and a more resilient Europe and more resilient region, and their collaboration could lead to joint initiatives aimed at promoting democratic governance, combating corruption, and fostering economic growth with the EU framework. And here, I totally agree with your guest about how Poland could change the region if the pro-European forces will win tonight. But Trzaskowski's victory also carries significant moment for the European Union. It would signal a recommitment to the European Union principles by one of its largest member states, potentially influencing the political trajectory of neighboring countries. And because we know that between Poland and Ukraine, we have a huge tension now, and also because a peace, Law and Justice Party campaign against the Ukrainian minority. And this shift could counterbalance the Eurosceptic sentiment and reinforce the EU cohesion, particularly in the face of external challenges such as Russian aggression and internal debates over the rule of law. And I want to mention that now in Poland, we can't talk about a pro-European or a pro-Russian president, because as in Romania, because both of the candidates claim that they are against Russian President Vladimir Putin and against the Russian policy over the continent. So, in the context of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, a pro-EU Polish presidency and a pro-EU Polish president would likely result in continued and possibly enhanced support for Ukraine, as President Nicu Jordan said in the name of Romanian state. So Trzaskowski's administration could advocate together with the Dan administration for sustained military and humanitarian aid, as well as support Ukraine's aspiration, and not only Ukraine's aspiration for EU and NATO membership, but also for Moldova. And this is very, very, very important, because Romania and Poland are the most powerful supporters of the Moldavian EU aspiration. So this stance will align with Romania's position, fostering a united front in Eastern Europe against external threats. And unfortunately, I can't see this front and this position in Bulgaria. Unfortunately, because you have a lot of problem with the political stability. But at the level, or at the domestic level, Trzaskowski's presidency, as Nicu Jordan presidency, could lead a significant reform in Poland, particularly concerning judiciary independence and media freedom. And in Romania, we have this debate launched by President Dan. And these changes would not only align Poland more closely with the European standards, but also serve as a model for democratic resilience in our region. So, such developments could inspire similar reforms in neighboring countries, including also Romania, but including Moldova, and why not the West Balkans. Strengthening democratic institutions across Eastern Europe. And now, with your permission, I'd like to talk about a little bit what will mean Karol Nawrocki's victory in this elections, because contrary to compressions with far right figures like George Simion in Romania, Navroski's political stance is rooted in Polish Catholic conservatism rather than extremist nationalism. And for me, this is very, very important. Why? Because he is associated with the international Make America Great Again movement, drawing ideological inspiration from US President Donald Trump. And however, Navroskis distinguished himself with a vehement opposition to Russia, as I said, advocating for strong defense policy and expressing skepticism towards Ukraine's NATO and EU membership until historical grievances such as the Volnya measures are addressed. And this is very important because in Romania we have this debate how Navroski can influence the pro-Russian politics in the European Union. So In my opinion, Navroski, it's not a pro-Russian politician as Simeon. So for Romania, Navroski's victory will not be very dangerous as George Simeon is for the domestic politics.
Okay, thanks for this thorough analysis on Bulgaria. Certainly, as somebody living in Bulgaria, I can say that there are many different forces coming from everywhere. Here, I have this joke that everyone does everything to everyone all the time here. So, but let me just say that I hope that the Euro dossier, the accession to Eurozone, will be successful. So maybe that will also mean we are moving in some way. And I saw that Malgorzata, on a number of cases, kind of agreed, nodded. So I would maybe ask her if she wishes to add something or to comment on your analysis. Maybe she has something to say.
Yes, so indeed, first of all, I agree with this assessment of Karol Nawrocki as not a pro-Russian politician. You cannot be a winner of a presidential elections or to come second in Polish presidential elections on a pro-Russian platform. It is absolutely impossible. There is a consensus among Polish top elites that we are allied with the United States, and this transatlantic partnership is the guarantee of the security not only of us but also of the rest of the region. So in fact, and there is a big interest in this regional partnership among the Polish elites. So, in fact, whoever comes to the presidential palace after these elections, there would be some thought, some talk of more strategic cooperation with the other countries of the eastern flank. But indeed, with Trzaskowski is a clear vision of both Ukrainian-Polish relations, of the further support to Ukraine, and also of how we should all organize the security agreements in our region based on both the United States and the solid position of Poland in the European Union. This is perhaps one of the key differences between the candidates, that for Trzaskowski, Poland's place is no doubt in the European community, in the European Union, and with a strong voice of Poland as one of the biggest and most populous country in the community. And perhaps we can expect a return to this old dream of Poland being the unofficial leader of the post-socialist countries or the Central and Southeastern European countries in Europe. With Navroski, we could rather expect Poland looking for allies in these countries that are currently ruled by sovereignist leaders or that tend to be ruled by the sovereignist leaders. So indeed, this is another important point that, Gabriel, you made, that if Trzaskowski wins today, it means that we, Polish citizens, we defended the liberal democracy in the end. And no matter how we are polarized, no matter how we hate each other, because the two blocks are not able to talk to each other normally. This is a different issue we may discuss later, but still we are still functioning in the framework of liberal democracy, and we go to the polls. We have very tight electoral campaigns, but still the conflict is resolved by democratic means. And this is very important, and this should be an example to other countries in the region as well.
Okay, can I ask something?
Yes, it's very important for everyone to understand that in Poland, both Rafał Trzaskowski and Karol Nawrocki have firmly stand their commitment to Poland's strategic alliance with the United States of America. And regardless of their ideological differences, Trzaskowski leading the liberal part of Polish politics, and Navroski representing a more conservative nationalist camp, both candidates recognize the critical importance of strong transatlantic ties for Poland's security and international standings. And with the Russian aggression on NATO's eastern flank, and growing geopolitical instability, continuing cooperation with the United States of America remains, in their vision, a cornerstone of Polish foreign policy. And Trzaskowski has consistently emphasized Poland's role as a reliable NATO partner and a democratic bulwark in Central Europe. And his pro-European agenda does not conflict with his deep appreciation for the U.S.-Polish alliance and relations. Rather, he frames transatlanticism as a dual commitment to Western democratic values and mutual defense. And I think that his campaign has reassured both domestic and international audience that under his leadership, Poland would remain a firm supporter of NATO cohesion and transatlantic unity. And on the other hand, Navroski, thought closer ideological to the American conservative movement and President Trump, has equally underscored the need for a strong U.S.-Polish partnership, particularly in military and energy cooperation, and this is vital for our region. While skeptical of some EU structures, Navroski's foreign policy posture includes a robust and an uncompromising stance against Russian influence, one that aligns closely with Washington's priorities in the region. So both candidates therefore offer a degree of continuity in Poland's stance orientation towards the United States, despite representing strictly different domestic agendas. Unfortunately, we don't have the same situation in Romania because we have a more pro-European president than a pro-American president. So this is very important for the Polish people to understand, and also for all of us, for all Europeans to understand that if Trzaskowski or Navroski will win, the strong relationship between Poland and United States will continue.
Okay, you already spoke a little bit about Polish-Romanian relationship, but could you somehow expand what do you expect to happen in the Polish-Romanian relationships in the after elections, given that there seems to be very close cooperation in domains like defense, economic investments between the two countries, cultural initiatives ongoing, especially after the Morawiecki's visit in 2023. What do you expect do you expect something more? What exactly would the Polish-Romanian relationship be like?
Mm-hmm. For me, it's very clear that independently the results of the elections of the presidential elections tonight and the results of the presidential elections, the relations between Romania and Poland will continue to be very strong and to be very important only for Poland and also for Romania. The President Nicu Jordan declared himself as a supporter of Trzaskowski leadership and the pro-European leadership of Poland, but at the same time, we have Navroski strong ties with our party and with the opposition, the parliamentary and political opposition in Romania. So. For me, it's very clear that our relation will continue to be very strong, and we will continue to cooperate in region in some areas such as defense and defense, energy, and European integration, especially when it comes about Moldova Western Balkans and Ukraine too. But I'd like to underline the importance of cooperation between our country, between Romania and Poland, in terms of military cooperation, because we are at the front line of European Union foreign policy in the region. We are on the front line of the NATO new strategy and new military doctrine. So I really think that in the upcoming years we will continue to cooperate and to develop the cooperation, not only in terms of military and energy sectors, but also in the economic sectors, and why not in the culture in the culture sector, because I should tell you that I want to congratulate the diplomatical mission of Poland in Romania for their contribution to the cultural cooperation between our countries.
Malgo, do you have any questions or anything to add now in this talk, in this involvement of Gabriel Done?
Right now, I don't have anything more in mind, especially that these results are still so uncertain that we can't be sure. We really can't be sure who becomes the president tomorrow. But indeed, with I think I agree with what our guest has said, what Gabriel has said, and yeah, that's it.
I have a question for you, if you allow me, please.
Yeah.
How Navroskis' administration can influence the foreign policy of the European Union right now in the light of the new policy for the Black Sea strategy of the European Union? Because it's not very clear for me, because during the campaign no one of the candidates talk about the cooperation in our region, and for us it's very important regarding that Turkey abuse of the Turkish abuse over the Montreux Convention. We don't have here in the Black Sea foreign military presence. So how Navroski can influence the European Union policy, foreign policy?
That is a very good question, and it is related to another question. What are the real Navroski's plans on Ukraine? Because during the campaign, he suggested a number of times that Ukraine's membership in the NATO and the future Ukrainian participation also in the European Union is a question that must be discussed. So it remains an open question whether he would like to continue the law and justice policy of maximum support to Ukraine and maximum deterrence policy also in the Black Sea region, or is there anything else he had in mind? In my opinion, his words on Ukraine were basically an attempt to win the so-called pro-peace segments of the electorate. I mean, pro-peace here in English, not peace as a political party, which is in fact, let's say, pro-Russian leaning segments of the voters who are tired with the war, who believe that Poland is basically losing money for international engagement and that we are not winning anything by our unconditional support to Ukraine and also engagement in favor of the Republic of Moldova and engagement also in the Black Sea region. So I think that what Navroski was saying here was rather a bit to win those voters rather than a serious suggestion that perhaps the Eastern and Southeastern policy of Poland should be revisited. Should the sovereignist administration come into being, after all, should Karol Nawrocki go to the presidential palace with his people, I do believe that in the end he would continue the line of Mateusz Morawiecki, the Law and Justice Prime Minister, and he would rather try to make Poland an important player in this region. So Poland allied with Romania, and supporting Romanian initiatives for security at the Black Sea.
Thank you very much.
Gabriel, do you have anything to add? Because I fear maybe we took too much of your time, and maybe you may like to also watch on your own what's going on in Poland.
Thank you very much. For me, it's enough.
Okay. Thank you for being with us then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for
very
connecting
much,
to us. It was a very important perspective because one could feel that there is more and will be more in the Polish-Romanian relations. So we also have to have people who know and reflect on these issues. And we stay in touch for sure. Cross-border talks in you.
Of course. Thank you very much.
In the meantime, I saw that some very interesting statistics in the stream of the public TV. For example, now voter turnout, women 75% and men 70%. So really an impressive result compared for both groups. But still, as you see, women in Poland are...
vote. If women
it's
vote
a pro-Trzaskowski vote. Yes, it's a pro-Trzaskowski vote indeed. But on the other hand, it shows how determined are female citizens of Poland to take part in the democratic process, even though many of the female voters feel disappointed by Tusk and his policies and the fact that we still don't have a law liberalizing access to abortion. There is still the will on the side of Polish women to vote and to stop the sovereignists. This is the impression I had.
Here some kind of a review of what happened after these very big anti-abortion protests who were taking place during the Law and Justice era. They were very, very big, and one could have expected that they would have changed the legislation. What happened after that? Can you say what happened after Tusk took power, etc.?
Well, it's very sad to say, but basically nothing happened after Tusk came to power in terms of abortion. So the problem is that for Tusk and his government, the explanation was that we can't do anything because there is Andrzej Duda in the presidential palace. And the second part of the explanation was that we have a conservative party in the government, because we must not forget that Donald Tusk is the prime minister of Poland, but the government is not composed uniquely of civic platform people, but it is a coalition government that includes also the New Left, Social Democratic Party, and the PSL, or I could say the People's Party or the Peasants Party. It's actually a coalition of the PSL party and the Third Road Party, which is the party of Szymon Hołownia, the former Catholic journalists, and now the president, now the Speaker of the Parliament. So basically, Donald Tusk, to get a majority in the parliament, he relies on the Social Democrats on one side and on the moderate Catholic Party on the other side. And as you can imagine, the modern Catholic Party does not want a change towards women's rights. They want to, the maximum they can agree for is to reverse the changes by Law and Justice, allowing more situations in which abortion can be performed, but generally then they don't even want to touch that issue. And knowing that they are necessary to keep the majority, Donald Tusk is also prolonging the resolution of that problem. In my view, Donald Tusk believes that he will get the women's vote anyway, because if women don't vote for his party, for his people, then they don't have a real choice. In the end, the alternative, the sovereignist alternative for women, is even more horrendous. Karol Nawrocki, perhaps not showing himself that much as an enemy of women in particular, but still a figure that we wouldn't like to have as a president. I am speaking now as an urban educated female voter, and I think that many of us think the same. Yes.
We may return to the figure of Navrotsky, but
yes.
I think it's a good occasion to ask you something more about Catholic fundamentalism, if I may say, because I wonder whether it has always been like that. I mean, I remember I was once, let's say, to Azerbaijan, and a journalist there who was also big in under socialist time, was saying that Poland was the most liberal country in Eastern Bloc at that moment, like 70s, 80s. And I also remember that there was this Catholic Pope, John Pavel II, who was maybe influential also in line with certain strategy for winning against the socialism in the region and internationally, a strategy maybe inspired by Brzezinski, etc. I hope I don't sound conspirationist, but I think this is common knowledge what I say, I think. So I was wondering, what is has it always been like that, with Catholic fundamentalism being so influential in Poland, and what is going on inside this current in Polish politics? Because I guess it doesn't stay the same all the time. Maybe it undergoes some transformations too.
In fact, I'd say that these elections were the ones in which the voice of the church was the least heard for a very long time. In my view, aligning too much with Catholic Church was actually a kiss of death to Law and Justice and their previous government. Because, to be frank, this anti-abortion law was a gift from the Law and Justice Party to the Catholics, to the Catholic Church, and to the most fundamentalist sections of their own party. And I think that Law and Justice is aware that they basically lost elections because of that. They started losing popularity after the mass protest, and also they somehow inspired the mass mobilizations of young women who realized that during that protest, that being a traditional Catholic is no longer a total mainstream in Poland, that there are thousands of people who think in a different way, and it is no longer a shame to speak in public that somebody does not adhere to the Catholic standard of values anymore. So, in fact, in these elections, I haven't heard any bold statement from the church endorsing the candidate, endorsing Karol Nawrocki, which is really a difference compared to previous presidential campaign. And I'd even say more. Over the last few months, the Catholic Church published a couple of statements concerning the migrant question, another big issue for political life in Poland today. And these statements were actually very much in the best spirit of Christianity. They spoke about the necessity to welcome the guests, to give to foreigners support, and to support the weak. And these statements were to a large extent ignored, also by the self-proclaimed Catholic politicians or the defenders of Catholic Poland, who preferred to speak instead about security and the necessity to seal off the borders. So although the agitation for Karol Nawrocki did happen in Catholic circles on the level of the parish churches, I know there were political sermons in many of them, or on the level of the Catholic media, starting with the most famous and the biggest Radio Maria, which is the biggest Catholic radio, the All Poland Catholic radio. This agitation was still on a lower level than before. And also, while Nawrocki emphasized that he is a Catholic, that he is a traditional man with a traditional family, it were not the central points of the discussion in these elections.
Okay, you remind me very well that Catholic Church has been governed, or can I say, presided over by a progressive pope until recently, and as far as I read, his inheritor is also progressive in some ways. Now, I remember another thing about Poland, which maybe is important. There is this claim that there are two significant institutions in Poland. One is the Catholic Church and the other is the labor unions. I don't know if you agree with this claim, but still I have had the impression that labor unions in Poland do represent certain force in society. So how, if I may ask this way, how does this election or Poland's situation look for the people of labor in general?
Yeah.
What are they worried about? What do they want to vote for or to receive or to obtain?
Yes, that is a very good question, and the answer will be ambiguous. So, if we speak about labor unions as such, most of them endorse more or less the line of the New Left Party, the Social Democratic Party. So, basically, that labor unions in Poland are divided, like all the Poles are. So, if we look at the position of the two biggest organizations of trade unions, the confederations, so we see on one hand the All Poland Trade Union Confederation that endorses the line of the New Left in more or less, and on the other hand we have the Solidarity Confederation, which is aligned with Law and Justice Party. So some of them, we can say that some of the trade unions advocated for further cooperation with the progressive, well, let's say progressive liberals. And for the other side, it is Law and Justice, who is still the only party that guarantees any kind of social policy. Even though, as we mentioned before, social policy seems to be abandoned by Law and Justice right now, and they are trying to adopt a more libertarian, a more Trump-style program in terms of economy. But if the question you asked is further, and the question is how did the labor world react, or how did the labor world vote? So here, perhaps the first round results tell us more about the sentiments of people of the labor class, on the working class. And here we see that a lot of labor vote, a lot of working class votes goes to the right-wing candidate, to the sovereignists, and even the far-right candidates. So when we look at the class division of the vote in the first round, we see that for the workers, the most selected options tend to be Karol Nawrocki, then Grzegorz Braun, the far-right candidate, and also Rafał Trzaskowski, who is appreciated by working people, but again, still rather the people in the service sector and rather in the bigger cities. So it seems that for the labor world of Poland, for the working class people, it is the pro-social right or formerly pro-social right that seems to be their best candidate, and also Grzegorz Braun as an anti-systemic person, which he pretends to be. The left-wing candidates had really a small support among the working class people, and their supporters are rather students or people in the service sector or educated, again, I'm saying educated urban voters, but let's say these kind of circles, yes.
Okay. There was this article by Wojciech Lubudzinski, Cross Border Talks author, that the left, in fact, as a whole, did a very good result in the first round of these elections. Could you comment on the situation among the left-wing tendency in Romania, in Poland? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I agree with Wojciech and I disagree at the same time, because on one hand, if somebody says that 10% is a good result, it means that the ambitions are really low. But on the other hand, if we compare these to the results of the left wing as a whole part of the political scene in both regional and European elections in Poland, then getting this percentage of votes is really a sign that still there are people who want to vote for the left. And even more importantly, that there are people who didn't agree with these liberal media suggestions to vote Trzaskowski immediately and don't be bothered about any small candidates that have no chance on advancing for the second round. So what is perhaps the biggest success for the left is that is that Adrian Zandberg, a candidate of the Together party, not the New Left that is a part of the government coalition, turned out to be the second popular candidate in the section of the youngest voters, so people between 18 and 29 years old. So we can see that the voters that have just started to be allowed to have a say on the country's future, they are interested in the left, they are interested in alternatives, and for them the alternative for the duopoly between law and justice and the civic platform is not only on the right but also on the left. Okay, and it is also interesting that the left's good result happened in a situation when we had 3 different left-wing candidates in this vote, and we tended to believe, and it also was an electoral slogan of one of the former presidential candidates on the left. Yes.
Can you make a pause to hear what's going on with Nikushor Dan? He's
Yeah,
now
I see.
on the TVP.
Yes.
That the former mayor of Bucharest faces a number of significant challenges.
All the problems that were hidden on last electoral year in 2024, that mean economical, social, and also political troubles, now are popping up once again on the Romanian scene.
So inflation is one of the highest, if not still the highest in the European Union. That came with the erosion of the purchasing power of Romanians.
As the flood victims begin the task of cleaning up, they'll be looking to Romania's new leader to help protect them in the future. John Todd for TVP World.
In Hungary, demonstrators took...
Okay, indeed, in Romania there have been floodings, and its area, they wrote Făgăraș. In fact, this is where Nikushor Dan even comes from. And he also visited a Hungarian populated area in the Carpathians region. So it looks like Romania gets good coverage in Polish media. Do you agree? In recent times, not only now.
Yes, there is a huge interest for Romania. I mean, not perhaps as huge as for the Western countries, but there is from the time since we started doing cross-border talks, I see that the interest for Romania has only been growing. Also, these cultural initiatives that you mentioned earlier, they are doing a very good job. There are, for example, more Romanian books available in translation, also in the libraries of Poland, and there is a yearly festival of Romanian cinema in Warsaw. So yes, there are signs that there is happening between our countries, that we learn each other. And indeed, now when Nikushor Dan became the president of Romania, I can expect more of that tendency. If Trzaskowski really becomes president, then more partnership between Poland and Romania sounds a logical outcome. Yeah, and returning to the question of the Polish left and what can be expected from them, I think that whoever now wins the presidential elections, it is an interesting situation for the left. It is a moment when I think I want to say that by having 3 different candidates in these elections, and 2 of them which gained some visibility, some real visibility, they proved that sometimes it is okay to have multiple candidates to appeal to different segments of the voters. And now they need to prove that they are really an alternative to this new right-wing, I don't want to say duopoly anymore, because there is the far-right confederation emerging as an independent force in this. So now the left's task is to show that they are aware of more than just having a nice campaign on the social media. And I am very curious if they can do it.
Could you also comment how the campaign unfolded with regards to the extreme right? Because there were a number of candidates there. And also, as I understand, the new tendency in the extreme right is pro-business, while the older law and justice, the previous at least older laws and justice, was somehow pro-social. So how is this dynamics changing in the extreme right?
Yeah, we are getting, I'd say that this extreme right is a current that we have had from the start of the transition from socialist economy to free market in Poland, but it is like pushed to the real extreme. Like from the beginning of the transition, there was a strong current in the public life advocating for a minimum state, minimum taxes, privatizing healthcare, privatizing school, giving all possible advances to the business so that the business and the free market builds prosperity for everybody. And those who can't prosper, they are simply not worth it. That was usually added in the end. And so this current have been here for all the time. However, the mainstream parties tried to tune it down, also not to be able to compete for the voters that for whom the transition was not really a happy time. And we have millions of people who did not really benefit from the transition. Having seen that Law and Justice is also turning to this pro market, pro business thinking, I wonder if this pro-social turn wasn't a short time disturbance in the force, as you, Vladimir, likes saying, or perhaps it was one man's or two men's political project, as Jarosław Kaczyński could have just authored this electoral strategy for some time, and now when he is no longer in power, again he needs to adhere to this more pro-business current, which has always had supporters in Law and Justice, in fact. But coming back to our main question, the Confederation Party with its leader Sławomir Mencen is indeed a party which does not pretend to be a social party and a kind of national and social party, but indeed they are standing for conservatism in, let's say, human relations and absolute pro-business approach in economy. If I am to compare them to any of the world-known politicians, the closest analog would be perhaps Javier Milei from Argentina, and his policies of minimizing the administration, cutting down this public spending, and letting business do whatever they want. And what is, however, interesting is that Confederation is very conservative on, let's say, everyday life terms. Sławomir Mencen, speaking while being interviewed in the presidential campaign, Sławomir Mencen said that he would like to ban abortion in virtually every case, including a situation when a woman is raped. And now, under the current strict Polish law, she still can perform an abortion. So he said overtly that, in his view, women should give birth in any circumstances. And the second thing he raised in that exchange was that he wanted a paid education, which is something that can't be really popular among young voters in Poland. What is very interesting is that this hardcore traditionalism, I even hesitate to call it hardcore Catholicism, because this is some hardcore traditionalism. This is also seen not only in the program of Sławomir Mencen, but in the other candidate, Grzegorz Braun, who is perhaps the most absurd person who was the candidate in the first round, and he actually came fourth, if I remember properly. Sorry, I'm excited and may not remember the proper statistics, but anyway, he did a good result. He won over 1 million of votes, despite starting all of his public speeches with "God bless you" and saying that his program is generally to fight communism, to fight the Jews, and to build a Poland clean of the immigrants. So this kind of program also got a portion of support, and also this kind of far right is very popular in social media in Poland. This is, of course, an open question, how many young voters of these people, because Sławomir Mencen was the first candidate for the youngest voters. Adrian Zandberg of the left was the second, but Mencen came first. So Is this a durable tendency, or would the young people, when growing older and more experienced, like rethink their initial sympathies? But indeed, anyway, the far right emerged as a force that must be counted, that must be taken into account in projecting any future parliamentary majority. Because whoever wins these elections, we will have a parliamentary elections in not that long time. And it may turn out that both Civic Platform and Law and Justice will try to win Confederation as their junior partner.
Okay, I need to remind here our listeners that Poland is in fact the president of the European Council of the European Union at this moment, and I remember they had one word to describe, the Polish government had one word to describe what its agenda or strategy or value is. It was security. So I was wondering, how is the presidency of the Council of the EU going? What are the achievements in terms of security, in other terms, in terms of whatever you are aware of, what happened with the Polish presidency? Because I need to say that in Bulgaria, my feeling is that there is very, very small discussion or no discussion at all about it. It is as if just nothing is happening. So what's happening in fact?
Well, you'll need to ask this question probably to somebody who is closer to Donald Tusk and his government and could ask you about specific initiatives, because indeed the public opinion in Poland is also not really aware of any breakthroughs that the Polish presidency have achieved. So what we have in the public debate, we have a connection of the security questions with two issues: the war on Ukraine and the migration issue. And however, here, as you are aware, also there were no breakthroughs achieved. Like, Poland is participating in the decision-making process, but no big initiative came from our side. And there was, I'd like to comment on something else. Like, just a second ago, there was a map, the division of the vote shown on the TVP channel. And this confirms what I said earlier. Like, the poorer regions, or the regions that did not really win from the transition period, still seem to be more with Navroski more with sovereignists and their candidate than with Trzaskowski. And Trzaskowski's superiority in the western and richer regions of Poland is really visible. So in fact, as you may, if the map is shown again, have a look at what is going on in the southeastern part of Poland, Podkarpackie Voivodeship, one of the poorest regions of the country, 72% for Navroski. So you can see that even though the sovereignists abandoned their pro-social agenda, they managed to grow a very faithful cohort of voters. A very faithful cohort of voters who really believe that these people, Law and Justice and their supporters, they are the saviors of traditional Poland. And they are also people who work for the benefit of the Polish society, not for the benefit of the European Union. And on the exactly opposite pole, northwestern Poland, the Zachodniopomorskie, with Szczecin as the capital city, 62% for Trzaskowski. So the region which has very close natural ties to Germany, a lot of cross-border exchange in terms of business and labor, and a lot of sense of belonging to the Western world, and they go vote for the candidate who stands for European values.
Knowing the situation in Bulgaria and Romania, I wonder how much is important to have the mayor of certain place, like town or city, on your side for these elections. I mean, are mayors in Poland institution which can also influence somehow the way people vote, can mobilize, encourage, whatever, influence the process indirectly, of course, or discreetly?
Well, I'd give you one example. It was free to use the public city transport today in Warsaw. You can draw conclusions for yourself. Was it just an act of goodwill from the local government, or was it a move aimed at having a maximum mobilization and a maximum of the, again, I'm saying this, educated urban voters and the polling station? So indeed, there perhaps perhaps the local politics in Poland looks different from Bulgarian and Romania still, but indeed there are tools that you can use even at the local level. And don't forget that the local governments are also those responsible for things like let's so-called landscape policy. So if the local government is favorable for a candidate, then his banners can appear everywhere in the city. If they are not, well, it's more difficult. So you see, there are tools to do something.
Poland under Tusk, the second governance of Tusk, is in fact part of the EU's core. And I was wondering, how is that felt in society, in media? Poland is part of the EU nucleus, in fact. Previously, just as I understand, Poland was trying to be leader of the region here, Central and Southeastern Europe. It was putting a lot of emphasis on the 3 Cs initiative. And now, once the Tusk retook power, Poland started seeing itself as part of the group of Weimar Triangle, France, Germany, and Poland. So that is an important, I would say, reorientation in Poland. People or Polish people are now European in the center of the core European people, not just leader of periphery. So I was wondering, how is this change felt, and what to expect, if you wish, for that in the future? Will Poland remain in the EU nucleus?
Okay, so here when you ask how is the situation seen and how are the media covering the situation, we need to make a very important distinction. European Union, Europe, and our role in European Union is portrayed on totally different terms in the sovereignist media and in the media that are more sympathetic towards the government. So for the government media, I don't want to say for the pro-government media, but yeah, we do have this division in Poland, with most of the mainstream media more being either more pro-Tusk or more pro-sovereignist. So in the pro-Tusk camp, it is, first of all, it is logical that we are a Western country. We have always been a Western country, even in the period when we were a Soviet Union satellite country, we were still a Western cultured country. So it is completely natural for them to see Poland as a partner of France, Germany, a country that has something to say on the European policies, and a country that co-shapes European policies, especially when these policies concern our region. So here there is a firm expectation that Donald Tusk and President Rafał Trzaskowski will keep us aligned with the European nucleus, and that our voice will be heard, and we will be able to co-shape the European policy on virtually every topic. And on the other hand, for the sovereignist media, there is an ambiguous relation with the European Union as such, and there was a lot of criticism of the European Union during Navroski's campaign. And Navroski hinted himself that for him, European Union is not a priority. Poland comes first, like make Poland great again. So for the sovereignists, at least in the discourse, the priority is Poland interest and the capability to stand for Polish interest, even if it means again entering in a conflict with Brussels. And here one remark was made by Przemysław Czarnek, who used to be a minister of education in the previous Law and Justice government, who said that should Karol Nawrocki be the president and should Poland again get criticized for violations of rule of law, for this or that, for any changes they would like to include, then the voice of the European Union would be ignored. So we see two totally different approaches to European Union institution and to the place of Poland in all this. And so, yeah.
Okay, but still there is a government which is led by Donald Tusk. And
Yes.
What exactly being part of the EU nucleus mean for Polish people, allies, whatever the country? It must be felt somehow that Poland is on one table. This is the Romanian argument. I think from Romanian point of view, it's seen like this. Poland is on the same table with the big powers in the EU. What does this change, if you wish, or how is it felt that Poland is equal, if I understand, to Germany and France?
So there are three essential issues that are the most discussed in this context. So how Poland could influence the European Union migration policy, how Poland could influence the collective security policy, including the policy of the war in Ukraine, and the third thing is also the energy market and any future agreements that will continue or replace the Green Deal. These are the key issues for Donald Tusk government and the things that they really want to have a say in Europe. And you asked me how it is felt to be the part of the European nucleus. Here again, there is a division. For the sovereignists, the sovereignist narrative, what we can read on the sovereignist media is, if you read only this kind of media, you will never learn we are an equal partner to Berlin or Paris. You will learn instead that European Union imposed a range of measures on Poland, included in the Green Deal, that hurt Polish agriculture, that we will be possibly forced to accept more illegal migrants in Poland, which will be a disaster in every terms, on any terms. And also that the European Union didn't allow us to continue with our energy structure, namely that the European Union is forcing us to abandon coal as an energy source, which also makes our economy vulnerable. So in the sovereignist media, you won't learn we are the part of the nucleus. You will learn instead that we are being hurt by directives coming from Brussels and that our government is cooperating with Brussels in creating laws that ultimately harm all the citizens of Poland. And this is, as you can imagine, this is a completely different thinking on the side of the pro-European voters, these voters who stood for Trzaskowski tonight. For them, the most important is that we are no longer punished for the rule of law violations, we are no longer denounced for rule of law violations, and we are no longer criticized for going the authoritarian and not the liberal democratic way. So on this side of the voters, yes, there is a feeling that we came to what we should have been all the time, and that we will have the chance to shape European policies on such issues like defense, migration, and also energy policies.
Okay, I'm excuse me for sincerity, I'm a little bit disappointed. I hope it's all right to have a broken moment of sincerity, but I somehow expected that Polish elites or whatever Polish people, media, if you wish, are not so national-centric. I have the feeling the debates you describe are very national-centric, while I guess from what I'm now, don't take it as absolute value, but in Bulgaria we are constantly told that if we too much insist on our national-centric, or if you wish, sovereignist view, we are always thinking about money, what to take from the EU, and the idea is that these are values. EU is values. These are being part of democratic world, being part of standards on various issues like economy, media, democracy, etc. So our pro-EU allies keep saying that EU is not only money which you eat, and it's not only about, being rich. It's also about believing in certain project, in certain, maybe if you wish, utopia or ideal. No war, for example, cooperation between countries, etc., etc. So, see, I don't say I am the norm in this sense. I just want to offer a Bulgarian, or if you wish, peripheral perspective on something which, surprisingly for me, also is somehow peripheral by what you describe. The way Poland or media talk thinks about its membership in the EU. I would have thought that being part of EU nucleus makes you much more ambitious, maybe also outside of your country, maybe makes you discuss with French and German people on equal level. I would have expected, let's say, more stories where Polish firms, Polish citizens, Polish experts are European, really, like just in the way that von der Leyen or Macron is European.
Okay, so
Am I wrong?
Well, you are not entirely wrong. We still need to. I'd say I also wish from our elites to think less in terms of how to make Poland great again, and more in terms of how we can all enjoy prosperity, or how can we build something over the borders for the profit of not only Polish citizens, but indeed, I'd say that in terms of defense policy and Ukrainian policy, then Poland did a really great job in previous years. And ironically, it happened also under the sovereignist government, which spoke a lot about defending Poland's interest first. And while speaking on one hand that we really need to defend Poland first, they actually opened the doors broadly for refugees, for the Ukrainian people, and they set a standard for other countries of the European Union as well. Like our solutions allowing Ukrainians to work here, to use the healthcare system, to give all the possible options for integration, I think were one of the brightest moments of law and justice government, and they set an example for others. And this is very regrettable that now, under a government which is theoretically more progressive, more enlightened, and more pro-European, there is much talk about abandoning some of the solutions of that time. So, yeah, in terms of regional policy and in terms of defense policy, our allies are capable of having a dialogue with German and French counterparts. And I think that especially on Ukrainian issues, our voice is very important in the nucleus of the European Union. And we are bringing another perspective, a perspective of the Central Europe, with our own experience with Russia and Russian tendencies to subordinate the neighbors and to impose their vision of the regional relations. So I think that here we are playing a positive role, and this role will be continued, even though the sovereignists present some vision of themselves also for the internal public. And on the other terms, yes, Poland could be more proactive in terms of migration or economic issues in Europe. Yes, I could expect more creativity from our government. And perhaps the thing that is personally for me incomprehensible is how both sides of the debate adopt very easily this far right narration of the immigrants being a danger, and how the migration strategy of European Union should be first of all of containing migration and not integrating people. Because in fact, our experience with integrating people is not that negative. we don't have so many people coming from outside as the Germans. Of course, here there is no comparison, but the people who do come from Poland, who started working and living in Poland, actually integrate quite well, even if they come from very remote countries. So I see there is a potential for Poland as a positive example, and I may only hope that Poland shows its best version in the European nucleus.
Okay, thank you for that opinion. And our talk is moving towards its end. We don't have at this moment of the night a very clear decision following answer who wins exact. There is some opinion polls give some advance for Trzaskowski, but I think our discussion on the context, social, international, economic, political, might have been useful for a number of viewers who have been watching us over the last hour and a half or even more. I'm curious to end with this question, which we have been discussing for a number of, I would say, years. There is this region, Central and Southeastern Europe, a region of common experience, common institutions, in a way, common contradictions, common issues. We see how, even in the talk with Gabriel Done, we saw how close the Romanian and Polish societies are in some terms. I don't say they're the same, of course, but we saw certain similarities. I was wondering if we could end on this note, because I think you both mentioned that maybe the Three Seas initiative will again be resurrected. What could we expect with one under the one president or under the other president with regards to the Three Seas initiative, in your view?
Okay, so if Rafał Trzaskowski becomes the president of Poland, I don't expect a breakthrough with the Three Seas initiative, because his priority would be the relations with the Weimar Triangle and also what I have just discussed. So the participation and creation of a common defense policy, but not necessarily with the countries in the region. Perhaps this belief that Poland could be the unofficial leader of the region would reemerge, this ambition would re-emerge. But if more countries in the region elect sovereignist leader, there will be even less willingness on the side of the Polish liberal elites to speak to these people and to try building one bloc with them. I'm not saying that Polish business will not try to invest in these countries. There will be for sure initiatives, and there is a lot of interest among the Polish business to enter the market, such as Romanian market, also Bulgarian market, and to be active in the region. But this will rather evolve as a private initiative and not as an official policy. So as I said, I don't expect a resurrection of the Three Seas initiative. I expect partnership with the Baltic countries on defense issues, partnership with Romania also on defense issues, and much less active partnerships with other countries in the region. If Karol Nawrocki becomes the president, then also I believe that the cooperation with other countries in the region will follow the, let's say, ideological key rather than regional key. Like under the previous rule of law and justice, there were numerous attempts to build a kind of network of the parties that also adhere to the same conservative values. There were even meetings of these parties' representatives featuring Giorgia Meloni from Italy, featuring the far-right Vox party from Spain, and from the region, I don't remember many partners coming to talk to law and justice politicians, but well, again, Romania and the Our party seems like a natural candidate for that. So I don't think that, also for Navrotsky, I think that it wouldn't be a big priority. I rather expect him trying to build alliances with other conservative parties and the countries ruled by these parties. that not necessarily in region, but also and beyond.
Okay. I'm thankful for this opportunity which we were given and we gave to us and to others to discuss Polish politics, Polish society, Polish elections. I think this will not be one of live streaming. I think we'll be doing it more regularly, and we'll be considering also having good interlocutors, not only discussing among us. So whoever is with us at this hour, I'm thankful for people who watched us and were with us. I think Poland needs to be better understood. I'm looking for ways to do that for myself and sharing what I learn. And I may give the last word to you, Malgorzata, as I think you have good endings.
Oh, thank you for also the opportunity to discuss Poland with you. I think that indeed we'll need to speak again in live format. What can I say in the end is that nobody in Poland will sleep this night, or perhaps not nobody, but a lot of engaged citizens will stay up late, first to see the late poll, which we expect in less than 2 hours, and secondly, to wait for the final voting count. And one thing I should also say at this moment is that one half of Polish people will not be satisfied. And perhaps one thing I should say. So you asked me earlier whether are the votes in the exit poll including only Poland or also the diaspora. So now I can say that we have the results from the United States, and I was right to say that this part of the diaspora will vote for Navroski. There is a 56% victory for the sovereignist candidate among the Polish citizens voting in the United States of America. So 56 for Navroski, 43 for Trzaskowski in the United States. And this is perhaps also, and coming back to my final statement here, whoever wins, then the other half of the Polish people will wake up disappointed, and they will feel that this country is no longer theirs and dark times have come. So perhaps the biggest issue, apart from all the economic issues, the foreign policy issues that we face as a society, is to overcome this. This is more than polarization, this is an enmity. Because when we had, on one hand, the first round seems to show that there are more political options available, not only law and justice or civic platform, because the other options were visible, and particularly the far right really grew in influence. But in the end, when we are faced only with this basic choice, it seems that one half of the society will vote for their candidate no matter what he said and no matter how much he deviated from the liberal, progressive, pro-European program. And the other half will also stand for their candidates no matter how many scandals surrounded him, and no matter how many times he behaved in a way which is really dubious for a conservative Catholic candidate. For I don't really think that a good Catholic participates is a football hooligan who participates in street fighting.
Yes, I need to add here something because it's really important, maybe what you say. And I had the occasion to be at the Three Cities Initiative Summit in Bucharest, a speaker at one of the side events, and it was about democracy in our region. And I had the opportunity to say there that our region and even Three Cities Initiative should be more interested to support somehow or encourage the appearance of cross-border media in our region, namely because a cross-border media by definition stays a little bit or more outside of the national contradiction, of the national polarization. So maybe it could offer something like a different perspective or added value in understanding or even overcoming somehow this contradiction in certain way. So I keep seeing Polish society reinforcing this polarization, and seeing also polarization in Romania, in Bulgaria now with the pro and anti adoption of the euro currency. I keep thinking that it might be tempting always. There is, of course, we all have opinions. We all know that some party is closer to us. But it's not only, in many ways, it's these discussions, these debates downgrade into a series of insults and abuses. And we need to somehow be able to live with the other part of our society. We need to be able also to be hurt by it and to hear it as well. So it's a big discussion. Maybe we are still in the beginning of this need for depolarization. But for me personally, there is this intuition that there is more than just being polarized. There is a Polish, if you wish, or Bulgarian or Romanian life beyond polarization, and I'm also curious to be in touch with this life.
Well, even in terms of pure politics, we saw in the first round that there are at least 4 options, not 2. Apart from the, let's say, progressive liberalism and sovereignism with social face, there is also a social democratic option, and there is also the far right, which stands on conservative platforms and pro-market. So at least 4 political options emerge as having a consistent program. And this is definitely a step forward compared to the previous parliamentary elections, when the choice was definitely between 2. And anybody who didn't want to stand for one or another camp was insulted by the media favorable to them. So perhaps we did the first step to get out of polarization, even though the second round seems to repeat the old pattern. But perhaps we are closer to the end of this standoff than we think. Well, anyway, the next years to come in Poland will be very interesting. And so I think we will cover them again on cross-border talks, just like we will keep looking on what is happening in Romania and other countries of the regions.
Okay, it's a good ending, somehow hopeful and optimist. I hope our listeners enjoyed the last 2 hours of cross-border talks, and we stay in touch. Keep reading cross-border talks, and let's hope for something better.
Yeah, let's hope for a better future. Thank you everybody who was with us today.